Ricky, what a week. We extended our ace, Chase Burns, 7 years. He's going to be with the Reds till 2033. And we won a series. Are we back?
I think we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
Let's talk about it.
This is the Red Hot Reds podcast. Here are your hosts, Ricky Logan and Roger Straz.
Well, Ricky, we are so back that we are now celebrating a series win after beating the Colorado Rockies. I don't know. Welcome to the Red Hot Reds podcast, the Cincinnati Reds podcast, hosted by myself, Roger Strauss, and Reds on SI writer Ricky Logan. We are here to talk about the Reds. Obviously, had a very interesting week in terms of like Chase Burns not going to pitch the All-Star game. Elly wasn't an All-Star, even though we can tell he is one of the best shortstops in baseball. You don't even you don't need eyes to see that, but. We did end up playing the Colorado Rockies in Colorado, which I guess we can assume that we're going to win that series, but you never know with this team, right? So it ends up being a series that we end up doing what we're supposed to do. But is that what we want to do? I mean, Nick Paul also said that we're open for sale. So, like, where are you at emotionally now, Ricky?
I mean, I always want to see the team win, but I also want to look at the team's, long-term health too. And, we go into the All-Star break kind of reeling and not looking like a good team and everything. And then, obviously it is Colorado, but to be fair, like the way this Reds team has played since May 1st, they're right there with Colorado as being a really bad team. So, good for Brady Singer to boost his trade value, and good for, I guess we'll talk about this later, good for Hunter Green to boost his trade value after coming back from the injury. And, there's some trade candidates that had some good days on Sunday and some, just it sucks. You don't want to see guys that you root for every day not on your team anymore, but you also got to look at the long-term stability of the team. And, we had 2022 happen when we had the fire sale of everybody, and then we saw what that got us just 1 year later, So it could happen like that, or it could happen in, 2 years, 3 years, depending on how you move these pieces. So I don't think, moving a Hunter Green is like a Luis Castillo type move just based off of Green's injury history. But, it is good to get a series win no matter who you're facing, especially after you've been really bad your last 2 months. But in retrospect, the last 10 games we were 4-10 or 4-6 on our last 10. Not great. So it is Colorado, but it is on the road, and you still have to pitch in Colorado, which we found that out on Saturday. So good to win. It's just you hope that this doesn't change the mind of the front office.
Yeah, it's quite agonizing to think that 2022 is not that far. It's not that far in the past, and they rebuilt. They sold a bunch of pieces, which is kind of the reality of what we are now today. 16 and a half games out of the division. We got the Brewers running away with it again, which ironically, all the prognosticators were like, "Oh, the Brewers can't do it again. They're not going to do this." The Cubs are still decently good. They're going to probably make the playoffs. Cardinals are kind of surprising. Pirates and us, the Reds, are been really disappointing this season in terms of just standings and where they are in the playoff chase. I don't know what to make of this team because I'm kind of excited at the core pieces. Obviously, we talked about Chase Burns getting extended. That's a core piece that we can look to the future and be excited about. But this 2026 version, I don't get excited about it. Beating the Rockies should be what they do. This next coming week, which we'll get into, that's going to be kind of more telling if this is a for real team. I don't think they are. The Rockies, great. We beat them. They beat us one game. It's kind of a situation where we're like, I don't know. I don't want, like you said, the front office to be fooled into this situation where now we're going to either stand pat or be buyers. I don't think we're going to be buyers. I think we have a lot of pieces to sell off. You know what I mean? The Brewers do this from time to time. They sell pieces and trade at the same time because they know they've got guys that they're not going to be able to extend, or that they're maybe possibly 1 year from not being at their peak anymore. So they trade them before they fall off. So like we can be that kind of situation. We can trade a Brady Singer and still kind of buy maybe a reliever at the deadline and kind of fool ourselves into thinking maybe a wild card is still a possibility. But ultimately, I don't think that is the reality. This Central Division somehow became one of the best divisions in baseball, where at one point all the teams were above 500 for a long stretch. Obviously the Reds being one of them, but no longer. They're what, 8 games under 500, unless they have some sort of Red Sox 12-game winning streak situation happen. You know what I mean? This team is what it is. I think we understand what they are. They're going to be good sometimes. They're going to be bad sometimes. But ultimately, I think this series win feels good, but shouldn't make the front office think differently, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, we did jump 2 games in the wild card standings. We were 8 games back. Now we're 6. So, yeah, well, we'll see. It's a long road ahead. You've got San Diego, who is 4.5 games ahead of us. We're 4 games behind Washington. 6.5 games, 6 games behind Pittsburgh for the final wild card spot. So it's a long road. Pirates are on fire. They're 7-3 in their last 10. So we are 500 in our last 10. So we're moving up.
Yeah. I think the Cardinals are frauds still. I've said this on the show many times. I don't think they're as good as they think. I know they're playing well. Yeah, obviously they beat us. They swept us once. I don't think they're as good as third place in this division. I think possibly if we go on a run, we can be ahead of them. The Pirates could be ahead of them, maybe. But I don't think they're as good. I don't think they're playoffs is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They're having a nice year at Jordan Walker. Nice story. Nice home run champion. Congrats to them. But I don't think they're playoff material. But, you know what I mean? This is like throwing stones from a house that's already got broken windows, because the Reds are not playoff contenders in my mind either. So I feel like if I don't know, if we can do well against Seattle and St. Louis this week, it might make me feel a little bit better about this team, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. Let's talk about the Reds this week. And it's 3 games. They won 2 out of 3. They had a terrible performance on Saturday. They had 2 good performances today and on Friday night. Ricky, what was your reaction from like the great performances that we got out of some of the guys this weekend?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it was really good to see Brady Singer really pitch well, and the Reds finally got a win in one of his starts. It hasn't happened in quite a long time, it feels like. And, you know, I think Brady is a lot better than he's been for the majority of this season. And I think I saw a stat on him. I'll have to find it. He's had, here it is. It says Brady Singer has had a high of 7 strikeouts this season, and he's averaging 5.8 strikeouts per game over his last 5 starts. And he hasn't had any dips in strikeouts below 5 since in that time span. So he's had as many as 7, and he's had an average of 5. And when he limits the walks and has good command, he's a good ground ball pitcher, and that's really what you need out of a good starting pitcher, especially at American Ballpark.
Yeah.
And for him to finally be showing that this season with less walks than he has to begin this year is really good. So really good for that, especially good for the Reds trying to get some trade value out of him because it was looking like a lost cause for a while. But having Rhett Lauder back in the rotation, it's kind of unfair to him. Granted, he did have some rest with the All-Star break, but it's a different kind of ramp up period going from a starter from the bullpen. So I can understand not having a great game your first time back in the rotation, kind of like what Hunter Green came back his first start. But yeah, and then having some guys that were looking to move like Nathaniel Lowe and Tyler Stephenson, there's probably very little chance the Reds could extend Tyler Stephenson at this point. So any trade value you could get out of him, you need it. And thankfully, Jose Trevino has been hitting the ball recently too. So, he could be that 1-year starter, for the rest of the season. You bring up like a Will Banfield or PJ Higgins or whoever and have them catch, because I think we all know the long-term catcher solution is going to be Alfredo Duno and one of, Jacob Friend, Ryan McChrystal, one of those guys being like the backup to Duno for the Reds. But yeah, overall, just kind of glad to see some guys that you're looking to move perform and kind of boost their trade value as well.
Yeah, that's the takeaway that I got from this weekend. I guess my cynical view is look who increased their trade value. Brady Singer, Spencer Steer, who's been in a lot of rumors at trade talks, Eugenio Suárez, like you said, Ty Steve. A bunch of these guys are performing right before the trade deadline, contributing to wins, contributing to performances. Ironically, a guy that we probably can't trade, Jose Trevino, was the bright spot in the Saturday game, hitting 2 home runs in a game that we just completely mailed it in. Unfortunately, Rhett Lauder, kind of having one of his worst outings as a Red. But that's been the kind of the main thing is like, hey, what are the aims of this season, right? Like it feels like we are. The words from Nick Kroll obviously always ring eternal because he says a lot of things that we will repeat on the show. Many times he's had quotes that have been repeated on the show, like eliminating the peaks and valleys. This time he says we are open for business. Is that necessarily what's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks? We will see. Will this be an occasion where they say they're open for business and then they end up not doing anything because no one meets their terms and we don't get what we expect out of, say, a Tyler Stephenson? There's been lots of discourse on X, the Everything app, that the Los Angeles Dodgers are looking for a catcher because they just put Will Smith, I believe, on the season-long IL. So could we get something from there? Their system is very chock full of great talent. Obviously, we helped that by trading Mike Sirota to them, and now he's a top 10 type talent in the MLB pipeline. But neither here nor there. I don't know if we're going to get Sirota back from that. I know a lot of people made that comment, and I was like, oh, everyone's already on the Mike Sirota trade joke. But I'm like, and some people are like, that's not a joke. I'm like, I don't think
he's the number 2 prospect in their organization. I doubt they trade him for a 1-year catcher.
No, yeah, I like to think. I don't know.
You're
think
looking at like a Zach Root or Kendall George or Kellen Lindsey, who Kellen Lindsey is 2028 projected ETA shortstop. You're looking at somebody like that if you're lucky. You're probably looking at, if you're cracking their top 30. Just kind of going through. Brady Smith is a pitcher. He's 2029 ETA. I think he got drafted last year. Noah Miller is a 2026 ETA. He's a shortstop, but he's a 27th ranked prospect with a few shortstops ahead of him. So, Chase Harlan is another guy, 16th ranked prospect, third baseman, 2028 ETA. So like you're looking at some, if you're picking from the Dodgers, you might get lucky, but it's if the Dodgers even want him, they'd have to be a part of this too. So it's a difficult decision to make for them. giving up somebody who has the potential like a Kellen Lindsay or a Kendall George or somebody like Peyton Martin, just naming out names that's in their system. And it's tough just because, the Dodgers, obviously they value their prospects too, but they're not afraid to trade them. Like they traded Nathaniel Cruz. I'm trying to think who else of note, but like they know how to scout. They know how to get their guys. And they obviously have one of the best farm systems for a reason. And you'd love to pick somebody out of that you think could contribute. And I'll say this too. Nick Krall is really good at evaluating prospects. I will say that it might not show it as far as like the scouting department for our scouting department, but when he goes to trade for somebody, like the numbers aren't there at the major league level, but Noelvi Marte was the number 1 prospect in the Mariners organization. Edwin Arroyo was the number 2 prospect in their organization. He swiped both of them for Luis Castillo, and the Mariners looking to trade him this deadline. CES was a very, there was potential with CES. I think it's obviously a lot of that comes down to player development, but had he improved his chase rate, I think he could have been a really good player in this system. Trying to think of anybody else. Spencer Steer, not Tyler. The Tyler Naquin trade. You trade, basically a rental. It hasn't panned out completely yet, but Jose Acuna and Hector Rodriguez could be on the major league roster next year, and they could be relatively good contributors at the major league level next year too. So I think he knows that part of it. He's terrible at signing guys. I think we can all agree on that. And I if this is the last season we have to deal with Nick Krall dealing with this kind of stuff, I will give him his flowers for how he has been with trading, major league talent for prospects for the future. It's just I'm tired of that always being the case.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that the best quality of a president of baseball operations is you're a really good seller of talent. Because it's kind of a tricky thing, because like the Tyler Naquin thing could have gone to 2 DSL guys that never made it out of the DSL. But the funny thing about this Krall Meador front office that we have right now is I'd like to be a fly on the wall as to what is their strategy, because I think they might see the writing on the wall. I feel like that's how they went about the 2026 draft. They infused like 90% of the draft picks are college age players. So a bunch of those guys are going to go into the potential top 30 or into the affiliate ball part of our organization and like be a part of bolstering that 25th ranked Baseball America out of 30 ranking for our farm system. Because if we're not going to be good at the majors, the front office has to try to get the minors right. And they haven't really. We've got some talent. Obviously, Alfredo Dano is obviously a guy that is a can't-miss type prospect. Hector Rodriguez, another one. Chase Petty is someone they have to get right. And that's another podcast for another day on how they're managing him. But if you're not going to get the majors right, you got to get the minors right. And that's one thing that even if the Dodgers are at the top of the baseball, they really make sure their minors are right. The Brewers make sure their minors are right. Tampa Bay Rays make sure their minors are right. That has to be a real focus. So if we're going to go into this deadline as sellers, we got to get something out of these guys. It can't be a low A guy that's been in low A for 3 or 4 years and probably is never going to make the majors, a la the Alexis Diaz trade, for example. So we have to try to think like Krall and Meador, because are they going to sell because they want to make the future better? Because they might not be here in the future. That's a kind of weird thing.
Yeah.
As executives, you probably are like, hey, you know what my job is? My job is to make the next guy's job easier because I'm not going to be here. I don't know. I feel like if he hadn't said anything, I would have assumed that they were all in to try to make the wild card, because they know that their job is probably closer to being over than the beginning. But I don't know. I don't know how the Castellinis really go about this. We might see Krall and Meador for the next 5 years because it's just easier to do it that way. The status quo. They might make some sort of trade that makes it seem like, oh yeah, they know what they're doing. But it's a frustrating part to be because the whole fan base is ready. Everyone's doing hashtag to the studs. Just take it all down until you got just Burns, Abbott, Green, Elly, and Sal as the only guys left, basically. Everyone else is up for sale. But winning this week, goodness, I don't know. It could completely reverse a bunch of fans to think that now we're back.
Yeah, we did, like you spoke about earlier. There was the report that I think it was C. Trent Rosenkrantz had said that the Reds are open for business. They said they do want to buy rentals, so we'll see where that kind of goes. You could sell and still go on a run because there's talent on this team that is here long term, like Elly and Sal and Burns. And if you keep Green, Abbott, there's 3 legitimate starters. There's 2 cornerstone offensive pieces. I'm kind of against trading Blade this year because he still has 2 more years of control after this year.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with waiting until next year just to see, because you kind of need the outfield depth if you're going to try to compete while selling. But Nathaniel Lowe, I mean, he's one that you think would be gone. 1 year minor league deal. Tyler Stephenson, 1 year. This is his final year of team control. Brady Singer, Suarez, maybe even Friedel, if you could get anything out of him. I'd even go as far as saying Dane Myers, just because you could probably get something from him. But I would Dane Myers as long as you could too. But Spencer Steer, if you trade Spencer Steer, you just plug Hector Rodriguez in the outfield, but you kind of lose that infield piece. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough business to be in. I'm glad I'm not the one making that call because I would totally botch that. But it was good to get a series win out of all this. Yeah. But I mean, we've seen, was it the Diamondbacks in 2023? They sold at the deadline and they went on a run. So it could happen. It could happen. It takes the right moves. Guys getting hot like Elly, who's been hot, like Sal, who homered today, I think, or yesterday. I can't remember. I'm lost at this point. But days are running together with this team.
Yeah.
And good for Trevino. Would they have a 3-hit game yesterday? And they still lost. So 2 home runs too. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. What's the deadline's in August this year, like August 3rd or 4th?
3rd. Yeah.
3rd. Okay, yeah. So we got 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So look for moves like that to happen in the coming days. But we'll be here to talk about it when it happens.
For sure. Getting back to the series was a home run fest and an extra base fest, which we'll get into with Elly as well in the next segment. But it was kind of crazy going to Colorado, and I guess it shouldn't be surprising that the air is so thin there that everyone's going to be hitting bombs left and right. But they ended up hitting a bunch of home runs on the 3 games. What was it end up being? Obviously we got the 2 from surprisingly from our catcher Jose Trevino on Saturday. But then we had a bunch of home runs from Friday night game. We had 2 from Spencer Steer, in the park home run from Spencer Steer. Eugenio Suárez hit 1, and so did Elly. So it was a home run fest through the whole weekend, which the Reds actually been really good at that. So maybe they could play in Colorado a little bit more.
Colorado Reds.
Right. We haven't been hitting with runners in scoring position, but if the bases are empty, we're great at hitting solo home runs. And then, today, what was it? We hit how many today? Tyler Stephenson had 2. Nate Lowe had 1, and so did Sal. So it was a home run fest. So if we're in a park that we can hit home runs, which should mean we should win a lot of home games, right? But not necessarily always what ends up happening. It's kind of weird because I feel like last year, Ricky, we're like, we need to hit more home runs. We need to hit more home runs. Guess what we did this year? We hit a lot more home runs, but when there's guys in scoring position, unless it's a home run, we don't come up with the big hit. So maybe there's some Chris Valika, line drive, hitting the ball in the gap, hitting the ball where we should to the right side of the infield type of stuff that, we're getting away from. I don't know. It didn't feel like we hit a lot of runners in scoring position in 2025 either. We just had way better pitching. So the games were a lot more competitive. We weren't getting, we weren't losing 10-3 to Colorado, you know what I mean, in 2025.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It feels good to win, but it feels like I don't want the fan base or the front office to think all of a sudden 6 games out of a playoff spot, now all of a sudden it's time to buy. That's my thought.
You know what my biggest takeaway from this series was outside of the offense? Just 3 walks in the entire series.
Really?
Not a single walk on Friday. There was 3 walks on Saturday. 2 of them were from Caleb Ferguson. Or 2 was from Sam All, one was from Caleb Ferguson, and then not a single walk on Sunday. So good to see a nice rebound from the bullpen coming in out of the All-Star break.
Absolutely. That is a stat I can get behind. If we can do that, if that's repeatable or that's something that's sustainable, we will do that. I have no problem, especially because our bullpen has been a leaking sieve for walks.
It's been bad. It's been bad.
Really?
It was like the day the calendar flipped to May. It's like the bullpen forgot how to throw a strike. And, I think it was Friday. Brady Singer, he allowed just 4 hits, had 6 strikeouts, no walks. Brock Burke pitched an inning, 1 hit. TJ Antone 1 hit. Both of them had a strikeout, no walks. So really good stuff from them. Especially TJ Antone has been so good this year. I've talked about him. We've both talked about him a lot, just coming back from Tommy John, and wrote about him being a comeback player of the year candidate. And I think, I think there was somebody else, I think in Milwaukee, that could be a contender for that. But the way Antone's been pitching out of the bullpen in, closer type fashion, I think he deserves consideration. Obviously, Pagan is the closer, but I think if there's a trade or another injury to Pagan, I think Antone's the guy you have to go to for that closer role. I think he's earned it, and he's pitching phenomenally. So I'm really. I don't want to say proud because I don't want it to seem like condescending, but I'm ecstatic for how he's been pitching this year because it's really awesome.
Yeah, he's come a long way for sure. And fans of the podcast, put in the comments last time that we had a 3-game series that we've only had 3 walks from our pitchers. I feel like that hasn't happened in years. Maybe
feels like it.
I don't know. Maybe back to when we had, like Luis Castillo and I don't even know, Tyler Malley back then. I don't know. Anyway, it could be a long time that we've had that. But anyway, anything else about the Colorado series before we move on to our next segment?
No, but you know what I do enjoy a lot? Mushroom coffee.
Oh.
I made the switch from traditional coffee to mud water because of all that caffeine was leaving me feeling anxious. Mud water has a fraction of the caffeine plus organic ingredients and functional mushrooms like lion's mane, reishi, chaga, and cordyceps that support immune functionality. It became a healthier part of my morning routine, and I genuinely enjoy the rich flavor. If you want to give it a try, use our exclusive link, mudwater.com/allglovesoff, and you'll get 20% off your first order. You know who had a really good morning routine, I'd say, on Friday coming out of the All-Star break? Elly De La Cruz.
Yeah. Extra base Ellie's is what I like to call him because that was the guy that we saw in 2023, right? The vintage Elly De La Cruz that in the second game hit a home run. 12th or 13th game ever hit a cycle against the Atlanta Braves. Not like a bum team, not like
that was like the
Rockies.
Good Atlanta Braves back in 2023 too. They were one of the best teams in baseball that year.
Exactly. So like this was a guy that could do it against anybody, right? Like a guy that it didn't matter who was pitching, didn't matter what the situation was. This guy was going to get extra bases home run, triple, double, whatever it was, if he got a single or walked, he was stealing as well. So like he's like extra bases even if he doesn't hit a double or triple because he's already on second base as assumed. So like I don't know how I go about this. He had 4 hits on Friday. One of them was a home run, and he seems to be just, I don't know, maybe he took it personally that he wasn't named to the All-Star game because he got that injury in early June, end of May, and ended up going on the IL for 2 weeks or so. Like, what is this new Elly that we're seeing? Or maybe it's just a return to the old Elly? Like, what are you seeing with Elly De La Cruz?
Well, he's currently on a 6-game hitting streak, and I think him hitting leadoff has been really good for him. I think he's getting pitches because there's actually, it sounds crazy, there's power threats behind him. So they're going to pitch to him, and, he's getting pitches and he's hitting them. It's just Elly has the ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark or hit the ball in the gap and go extra bases. He's shown a better eye at the plate. He's striking out a little bit less. He's walking, and he's a legitimate threat. And I think having him at leadoff, having your best hitter at the leadoff spot is where most teams go nowadays. And I think Tito finally caught up to that, putting Elly at the leadoff spot and not having your worst hitter as your leadoff guy in TJ Friedl. And, having guys behind you like Sal and today, Nathaniel Lowe and Tyler Stephenson able to drive you in and hit home runs, that helps. And Elly is improving every single year, and he's becoming one of the best players in the sport before our eyes. And everybody that dogs on him for his defense, well, he shored that up. Everybody that dogs on him for not being able to hit right-handed, he shored that up. Anybody that's talked about his ability to get on base, well, now he's hitting leadoff, and he's the best player on the team offensively. So I think we could stop with all the Elly hate, just appreciate him while you have him, and, enjoy the ride, because he could very well, next year be the shortstop starter on the National League All-Star team if there's a season. And he could be a very legitimate MVP candidate. And you know what? I'll even go to say this. He could be a Silver Slugger candidate for a shortstop with how much he's improved offensively. And he's finding ways to get better in ways that, I think in the minor leagues, he hit 300, and he could do that. He could be a 300 hitter, hit 25, 30 home runs, steal 30 bases, steal 40 bases, drive in, 80 out of the leadoff spot. And that is, it's too underappreciated what he's doing. And I think we just need to stop. I mean, I think casual everyday fans appreciate him. It's just the eggs on Twitter that don't have their profile as their picture that get away with it, or people that create fake accounts on Facebook. Appreciate him while you have him. He's one of the best players in the game, and he's just 24 years old, and he's going to get better. To think that this kid can get better is insane, and I think he's going to. He's shown every way that he can get better, and if he becomes a Gold Glove candidate fielder, as well as a Silver Slugger offensive bat, I mean, you're looking at one of the greatest players of this generation, and that's that. And he's a Cincinnati Red. Just appreciate him while you have him.
Yeah, for sure. It's a weird dichotomy because you're right. There's a lot of online hate, online discourse about how he's not single-handedly winning them games every single time out. Baseball is ultimately a team sport because you have 9 guys that bat, and it's not like he can come up to bat every single inning to win a game. He unfortunately has to take his turn, but it seems like Tito has unlocked this lineup bingo yet again. We had been clamoring last year and maybe in years past, Elly should be the 2-hole hitter, right? Analytics say that like the leadoff hitter sets the table. Second hitter is usually the best hitter. It gets him more chances to get at bats. And also he gets to see what the starter is working with at least one at bat ahead of him. So he's not going into, the first inning cold. But it seems like it's kind of worked with Elly in terms of like bat him leadoff. He's going to get the most at bats because he's your best player. He's the guy that is going to make a difference. He's hitting extra bases at a rate that we're most used to in years past. Maybe not, obviously August 2025, that was a month that Elly probably would like to forget, as well as along the lines a lot of Reds fans would like to forget August 2025, because it was that torn quad that he was playing through. Ironically, the time that he does go on the IL this year, comes back stronger, and should be the one reason, or one of the many reasons, that the Reds may have a fighting chance at a playoff spot, would be him, plus the pitching, possibly with Green and Burns and Abbott and what have you. But it's kind of like, yeah, he's 24. The baseball logic, has dictated over years that you hit your baseball peak at like age 27, and he's not even there yet. He's got 25, 26, and then 27, baseball season, age, whatever, to like grow into that. So he's still on the ascent of his career, which, maybe it's the cynical baseball fans in Cincinnati that haven't seen a good baseball team since 2013, a 90-win team since 2013, that they expect that this superstar, this so-called superstar, is supposed to just magically make this franchise a winner. Unfortunately, if he could, he would. If he could bat every single inning, he would. If this guy would, have to play on a broken ankle and a broken hand, he would. But unfortunately, baseball is a much bigger sport, and they need to build around him, which is why, as a fan, they need to tear down the rot that is not working, and get some pieces that will build a winner in 2027 or 2028.
Yeah, don't be the Los Angeles Angels, where you have a Hall of Fame two-way player and Mike Trout. Granted, Mike Trout had the injuries, but you have
They also had Shohei Ohtani, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, you have Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, like the two best players in the sport, and you never made the playoffs with both of them on the same team. And
they made the playoffs once and lost.
Yeah, I think, and to have those two players, like, you just didn't build around them. Don't become what the Angels did. You can have Elly and eat your cake too. I guess is you can build around these guys. You have Sal Stewart. Sal Stewart's a cornerstone offensive piece that is playing a really good third base, by the way. And you have two cornerstone pitchers in Green and Burns, and Louder, up until this season, has been a really promising pitcher. The walks have been high for him this year, but don't become the Angels. Like, have Elly, trade around him, build around him, and become competitive. Because if you become competitive, Elly can bring you over that. It's just, it can't be just Elly. We saw that with the Angels. It can't just be Ohtani. It can't be just Trout. It's a team. You got to have a average bullpen. You got to have average starters. You got to have an average offensive lineup with pieces that can put you over the top. And when you build around them, that can happen. It's just you gotta do that. Evan Arroyo can become that, by the way. He hasn't shown it yet at the major league level. He's still so young too, and I'll even throw Marte in that boat too. He's just got to become more consistent. And Dane Myers is a serviceable fourth outfielder. Spencer Steer he's a league average player. He's not going to be a transcending player, but we can't rely on this team having somebody like Steer trying to be the guy when you have the guy in Elly De La Cruz, and I'll even throw Sal Stewart in that boat too.
Yeah. And it's not like it feels like sometimes baseball rebuilds can be years and decades in the making. I don't think that's always the case anymore, because we see a Chicago White Sox lose 121 games 2 years ago. And now they've rebuilt. They've drafted well. They've got the number 1 overall pick, Cholowski, who may be, coming up in the near future for them. But they're already competing for their division this year after losing 120 plus games 2 years ago.
Yeah,
that should be an indication for the front office of the Reds that if you're not able to do that, and I'm not saying they have to do that, but they should be able to do that. If they don't feel like they can, and they feel like they're going to talk about 5-year plans, 6-year plans, long-term stuff, it feels like they need to really realize what they have in front of them. Like you said, the Sal Stewarts, the Elly De La Cruzes, the Hunter Greens, the Chase Burns, they are there right now. you are turning into the franchise that wasted prime years of Joey Votto yet again. And that will just make the Reds fan base even more mad.
Yeah, because we saw that with when the rebuild ended. I don't like how they use that terminology after 2022. When McLean came up and Elly came up and CES came up and Abbott came up and Marte came up, we had the success. We didn't make the playoffs, but we had a good year. And Kroll said, our rebuild's done. And there was no evaluation of what these players could become. There was no more planning around that. And we saw that kind of rear its head this season when you trade CES, you trade Reese Hines, you trade who else? You traded some prospects for some guys who aren't even on the team anymore, like McCambly and
Tyler
Callahan. So there's always ways to try to keep the rebuild going while not completely tearing it down. And adding a Jamer Candelario was a mistake. I kind of felt like that from the beginning. Going and getting Key Brian Hayes when your offense is terrible. I get the defense. You need defense, but I would take a league average to slightly below average defender and have a plus bat in that spot. And I think we kind of shoehorned Sal Stewart as a first baseman. He's played pretty well at first base, but you're shoehorning him as a first baseman when he can play third. And then, you could trade for a first baseman. You could, whatever you need. Like Spencer Steer, like his glove's good at first, but I don't think his bat is a good first baseman. But I would take the bat at Sal Stewart at third with average to slightly below average defense and go get the great hitting first baseman that hits 30 home runs, 40 home runs. It might, we shoehorned ourselves into getting Kyle Schwarber, and we could have got Pete Alonso, who plays a pretty decent first base, and he's going to hit you 40 home runs. And he likes fireworks at Great American Ballpark. So why not do that? I don't like the mindset of what that happens. And that all comes back down to Nick Kroll and Brad Meador. Is their future this year? Is it next year? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years from now? Because we've seen Kroll be in this organization, I think, since 2003 as a scout. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens with that. But let's enjoy Elly while we got him. Let's enjoy the moments he gives us, because he's given us a ton of moments. And this is what, his third full season or third full season with the team. So let's just enjoy it. And it was really good to see him come out of the All-Star break hot, proving that he was snubbed of the All-Star game.
Yeah. Like I said, I think he took it personal. I'm sure his agent, who should not be named, took it personal as well, because they're going into their first year arbitration, and they cannot say that he was an All-Star this year, which probably the Reds might be thinking they're lucky stars that he might be a couple million cheaper this year, as opposed to if he was an All-Star playing the way he's hitting. Goodness, this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, I guess. Not a hot take, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, you look at he was an All-Star his first full season. He was an All-Star his second full season. Should have been an All-Star in his third full season. So that is what it is. I think that it doesn't bode well for Castellini's pocketbook as far as arbitration. And there's a lot of guys in arbitration this year too, by the way, from that 2023 season. Abbott, Steer, Elly, Marte, I think is in that boat too. McLean, he's in his second year of arbitration, so his money could go up. And his Brandon Williamson. Yeah, because McLean was a part of that Super 2 status where his day was the day, and then Williamson debuted the next game, and that, he missed it by 1 day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll get his money this year, hopefully. Hopefully he gets back sooner or later as well. But anything else about Elly before we move it on?
I think I've let my feelings be known.
Like I said, we can go on and on and on, and we'll probably have
a show dedicated to Elly.
Yeah, we'll have a whole arbitration day for Elly, how much he's worth. But there are some guys that are possibly trade pieces that have been showing out, and this weekend was great to see Nathaniel Lowe and Ty Steve hit some home runs in, Coors Field. But these guys, it's kind of bittersweet because, like, the Nathaniel Lowe story, he comes to spring training, as a minor league deal. I believe one of his parents passed away during spring training, had to take some time away, ends up making the roster as 26 man and being the right decision, I think, between all the people that we know that follow the Reds, that talk about the Reds. It wasn't like it was a Bubba Thompson situation where he was like, oh, okay, I guess we'll just add a 26 guy. He's a guy that's a legitimate all-star, Silver Slugger, I think Gold Glove as well, at least a World Series winner in 2023 with the Texas Rangers. So it's a legitimate baseball player that is adding depth, probably one of the best bench players that we've had in recent years. But he doesn't get to play every day, so he has, pick his spots. And today he showed out this weekend. And Ty Steve as well, a guy that we've talked about a lot on the show going into free agency next season. Greg Kuffner has been, the one guy that I've heard that said extend Ty Steve because you don't know, you're never going to get his type of production at the catcher position anywhere else, except if you wait a couple more seasons to get Alfredo Deneau, but that's neither here nor there. I think we know exactly what the Reds are going to possibly do with Ty Steve. What was your kind of thoughts about these two guys in particular who have been trade, rumors abound, finally kind of showing why they could fetch us something in the trade market?
Yeah, so Tyler Stephenson's been really good over his last 30 games. He has a 309 average and he has an 841 OPS with 4 home runs in that span. He's not striking out a ton, but he has 7 strikeouts in his last 7, 9 in his last 15. He's hitting 380 in his last 15 games. So he's been on the stretch where he's been really hitting the ball. I wonder if because wasn't he on the IL earlier in spring training for like a back issue or something? So
yeah.
maybe that was kind of lingering and he's finally completely, you're never completely healthy, but maybe he's finally feeling good enough to swing the bat with confidence. So I like that. He, in his last 50 at bats, like I said, he's got 19 hits, 380 average. He's slugging 580 in his last 15 games, 640 in his last 7 games. So he's been on a nice little power stretch here. And, teams that need a catcher are going to be calling about him, and the Reds need to answer that phone call. But you're finally seeing the player that we thought that he was going to be for a long time. He was drafted in 2015, spent his first 5 years in the minor leagues out of high school. Comes up during the COVID years in 2020, hits a home run in his first at bat or his first game.
Yeah,
it's a home run. Locked on. Steve Offenbaker always had that classic line of Tyler Stephenson 40 home runs is coming.
Yeah,
it never happened, but I was kind of in the camp that I was kind of hoping that with the way his bat translates, I was hoping that they would try to move him out of catcher, just kind of protect his career.
Yeah.
A lot of good players have been catchers that have moved out of the position. I think the most famous one for the Reds is Joey Votto. I think one of the better ones in recent memory is Bryce Harper, who was drafted as a catcher, who moved to the outfield and now plays first base. Yeah. I know Stephenson says that he doesn't really particularly like first base. It is what it is. If he likes catching, he's done a hell of a job with ABS this year. And that has value. That has a lot of value. A team that's getting Tyler Stephenson isn't just getting the bat that he's had his last 30 games. They're getting one of the best ABS catchers in the sport. And that can flip a game. That could flip everything. Imagine, are they doing it in the playoffs? Like, just imagine like Game 7 of the World Series, 3-2 count, bases loaded in a 1-run game, and he ABS challenges that last strike. That was a ball. And it's like the corner strike, like the one Jose Trevino had just before the All-Star break that just barely clipped the zone.
Yeah.
And that wins you the World Series. I just imagine the pop that would get, and you made the move to go get him,
Yeah.
So he's been really good. He's got 8 home runs this year. He had 13 last year. His best year was 2024. He had 19 as far as power goes. But, I'm happy for him. He's still young. What's he, 28, 29? Just turned 29, I believe. Or he turns 30 in August. So he's still relatively young. He's been in the league for quite some time now, 6 years. So, happy for him. Hopefully he could go to a team that, he can be a really solid contributor to, and we can get something back that's really worth something for years to come, and not just like a rental player for a rental player. So happy for him. And Nathaniel Lowe, I think, was it his mom that he lost in spring training? He's just a stand-up guy. I think he threw there was a Christmas in July that they had. It wasn't technically June, but they called it Christmas in July. He learned that from his time in Washington. I wrote about that a little bit too, but it was really good to see him because he went on like a power drought for a little while, and even with that power drought, he's got an 806 OPS, which is serviceable. 11 home runs. His last 7 games, he's hitting just 222 with a 481 slug. He's getting hits relatively decently. He's got at least a 3-game hitting streak going back to the Chicago series when he played. I'll get the number here, but Lowe was a very important part of April. If Lowe wasn't on that team in April, I don't think that they would have had as good of an April as that they did. The hope was that the bullpen wasn't going to collapse, and JJ Bleday would have been added into that, and his offensive prowess would have just been infused and would have carried the great April into at least a 500 May, and then you're still competitive, and then you would hope that Suárez would get hot and everything else would transpire, but it's just nothing really went the way they had hoped, and it's good to see Nathaniel Lowe showing that he has value at the trade deadline too, which we all kind of say this from like the sport and the team aspect. It sucks for the human aspect of it because these guys got to get up and just move, but they're professionals. They've done it. They know what it's like, and it would be the first time for Stephenson. It's not the first time for Lowe. So, that's about all I can't really. That's it. It's just good for them. You would hope that their contribution would be more than selling off a rental to somebody, and the team wouldn't have collapsed the way it did, and they could have been key contributors in a playoff run and not getting hot in July to get traded.
Yeah, I think one of the main reasons that they're possibly going to sell Lowe. Obviously, he's a valued bat off the bench from we have seen at his time here in Cincinnati, but like I think on the open market, he would be valued like $13.5 million potentially. And there's no way that Cincinnati is going to throw over that much money for a bench player. They barely pay that for, they're regretting the $15 million from Eugenio Suárez. And that's another thing that we could talk about in terms of trade pieces. But Ty Steve almost kind of feels like he was too early because he feels like he is a catcher for the ABS age. Like he was not a great framer. Like that was the one thing that was like against him, is that he worked at trying to frame pitches before the ABS system was installed. And then all of a sudden, the last year of his 6 years in control, he's one of the best ABS catchers out there. So now it's like, well, dang it. It's too bad he wasn't drafted in 2025 as opposed to 2015, because then he could have been, him and Alfredo Dano be the 2 catchers of the future for this organization. But, I think he still has some value somewhere. We talked about the Dodgers putting Will Smith on the IL. That could fetch us something potentially. There's probably a lot of also teams that are looking for just left-handed power bats for Nate Lowe. So, and Brady Singer as well. I know he's not top line Chase Burns nasty stuff, but they're gonna need a guy like Singer, right? Like we were able to trade Frankie Montas. Obviously, we didn't get terribly much, and we traded it in division to the Milwaukee Brewers, but we still were able to get Frankie Montas off our books. I have no doubt that we'll be able to find someone for Singer, Lowe, and Ty Steve. As much as that kind of just kills basically what this team was kind of built around. Not those three guys were like the cornerstone, but they're valued pieces that could help somewhere else. And unfortunately, I think their time in Cincinnati is closer to the end than it was at the start of it. So I don't know. I feel Ty Steve, it stinks because he was a first round pick in 2015?
Yep.
Or
yeah,
so
first round pick.
That's a huge investment. A guy that's been around with the organization for 11 years, possibly playing his last games in Cincinnati. Nate Lowe, a great story, being picked up in a minor league deal. Unfortunately, maybe he'll go off to the trade to the White Sox, and they can help them push them over the edge or something like that to win the division. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, he's a bat that you could bring off the bench, and he can hit you a walk-off home run. I mean, I think our favorite memory of him this season is that Tiger series where he hit 2 home runs and hit that walk-off after the rain delay. I mean, that was a incredible moment, and he was just watching him round the bases, just fired up. That was awesome. And it sucks. It's part of the game, I guess.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, if they're being traded to contenders, they might have a nice ending to their 2026 season, trying to help a team win games it's actually in it. I don't know if they want to be on a team that's 10 games under 500.
Yeah. Don't trade Nate Lowe to the Rockies.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting a good player back, obviously. But yeah.
Right. Well,
for his sake.
Talk about a good player. After this commercial, we're going to talk about our Red Hot Red of the week.
Listen up, Reds fans. If you're repping the Cincinnati Reds this season, you need your drink just as cold as your takes. Introducing Frost Buddy, the world's first and only universal can cooler. Say goodbye to switching between coolers like you're rotating pitchers. Frost Buddy fits every 12-ounce can, slim can, 12-ounce bottle, and 16-ounce cans and bottles as well. All in one. No more guessing, no more swapping. Just grab it and go. And here's the game changer. Turn it into a tumbler by adding their 100% leak-proof coffee lid. That's right. From first pitch to morning commute, Frost Buddy's got you covered. So whether you're tailgating, watching from the couch, or celebrating a Reds win, this is the only cooler you'll need. Grab your favorite team's Frost Buddy now and keep it cold all season long. You know what I like about Frost Buddy, Roger?
What's that?
They're not just koozies. They've got a bunch of products. They got backpacks. They've got tumblers. They've got to-go buddies that hold your to-go drinks from like McDonald's or Dunkin' or Starbucks. And they have a new lid that they have been showing off on their website called the One Lid. And I'll give you a little demo of what it is. It's probably not going to show up because but this lid here has a little dial on it. It's not showing up great, but it's 100% leak proof. Nothing's going to come out of it. It's got a sip straw, so you can sip out of it. And it's also got a chug drink. So you could chug it, sip it, close it, all of the above. And they got cool designs. They got baseball. They got softball. They got anything. They got, female patterns. If you're into like flowers and bumblebees and stuff like that, they got those. If you're into camo and like mossy oak, they got camo and mossy oak. So they got it all. So I buy all mine. I've never been sent one. They just help us out by trying to get us to help them. So we're in that boat too. So Frost Buddy is awesome, and I can say I probably have an addiction to buying Frost Buddies. Yeah,
they're a great sponsor. We really appreciate it. Quality product for sure, because I've got some stuff from them, and yeah, shout out Frost Buddy. I guess maybe we should call this Frost Buddy Red Hot Red of the Week. Sponsored
Hey, there we go. There we go.
We got a guy that, I think, again, I'll use this line. I think he took it personally that he wasn't selected for the All-Star game. I know he went on the IL in June. It allowed Edwin Arroyo to come up, and they got this infield, crunch of players. But our Red Hot Red of the Week is the guy that I don't think we can talk about enough, and probably we'll have future podcasts reminiscing about the days of Elly De La Cruz in Cincinnati. But our player of the week is Mr. Elly Antonio De La Cruz. Just extra base Elly is back, which is great to see. It is the one thing from 2023 that sticks out in my mind all the time, is that anytime this guy came up to the plate, it could be a double, it could be a triple, it could be a homer, but it was something exciting for the fans to see. I'm glad to see that back in 2026. Ricky, what are your thoughts about Mr. Cruz?
Yeah, I can't say enough. I mean, like we said, we could go on for a whole entire episode dedicated to how much we love Elly De La Cruz. And I remember, what was it, last year we had Nick Kirby on, and we did our Facebook comment of the week, and it was about Elly. And this was when he was having his best offensive run as a hitter for average in his major league career. And it was like, dude, this guy is the absolute best player on this team. And, I would, he said, the comment said, I wouldn't shed a tear if he was traded. And Nick was like, I'd shed a hell of a lot of tears if I didn't have Elly De La Cruz on my team, which I could agree with. If this team didn't have Elly De La Cruz on this team, they probably have 30 wins and not 46 or whatever it is, 45. So, appreciate him while you have him. I'm not saying you got to worship this guy, because in my world, I only worship one person ever, and that is Jesus Christ. But you can enjoy him while you have him. He is undoubtedly the best player on this team. You could say he's the best player in the division, and you could make the argument he's one of the top 5 players in the National League, top 10 Major League, and I don't think he's 10th, and I don't think he's 5th in the National League. He's a generational talent. He's unbelievable. He does everything you can want, and he seems like a good human being also. So just appreciate him while you have him. And not only is he doing all of this, he's learning English. He has interviews in English. He's doing everything right. And I get it. There's the animosity towards him that you want him to stay in Cincinnati forever. You want to have that Joey Votto contract, but it's never going to happen. Unless CBA changes and they go with different types of contracts. And that's not even saying maybe he doesn't want to be here forever. He seems to love LA. He likes New York. He likes the big city life. He's from just a rough part of the Dominican Republic that didn't have anything. He had to move hours away from where he was from just to get recognized, to have a chance at getting someone to sign him. Yeah. And when he was signed, he wasn't even the player that somebody wanted. He was there to be somebody that made the other guy look good. And look what happened. He took that to heart, and he worked hard, and look where he's at. So I can't say enough about him. You won't find me saying anything negative unless it's warranted, and I haven't seen anything that's been warranted to say anything negative about him.
Yeah. I mean, obviously no one's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes and everything like that. But this guy also, mind you, it feels like every couple of weeks, every couple of months, sets a record of some sort. And this week, he became just the second player in MLB history to record 200 extra base hits and 150 stolen bases in the first 4 years of his career. And that feat hadn't been accomplished since 1983 by a guy named Juan Samuel. So and then there was a stat earlier, I don't know if it was this year or last year, it set a stat that for the Reds that hadn't been accomplished since 1900. So
which is ever.
this guy is above average, to say the least, if we're going to be like petty about, putting superstar label on him, right? Because obviously, the Reds aren't, World Series contenders year in, year out. But the nature of baseball is that you have to have 9 all-stars. You know what I mean? If anything, this is the thing that rubs me wrong about Cincinnati fans. We obviously have had the Big Red Machine, right? They should know, if you know your Reds history, that there was 9 to 10 to 11 all-stars on the Big Red Machine at any given time during the 70s. Meaning, it doesn't mean that Pete Rose won all those World Series for them. It doesn't mean that, like Johnny Bench won all those World Series for them. It was all those guys. It was, Concepcion. It was all the guys that you can mention out there. Griffey Sr. was a good player on that team, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's what the modern Reds don't have. They have Sal, they have Elly, they got Burns, they got Abbott, they got Hunter Green. The rest have to be at the very least above average players to at least just average, not below average. Below average brings those stars down, and then all of a sudden the fans start throwing arrows at the stars because they're like, why are you not winning 90 games, Hunter Green, for this team? Why are you not hitting 50 home runs, Elly De La Cruz? Baseball is a team sport. It's an ultimate team sport in my mind. You got to have more than just 2 all-stars.
Yeah. And, like looking at the Big Red Machine, the Dodgers are that team now that has 5 to 6 all-stars on their team. The Yankees, at some points, the Red Sox. Like, baseball nowadays is all about drafting and developing or paying for talent. And there's a big discrepancy in that. You can't be neither. You got to do one or the other. And the Reds haven't really done that. And I think there's potential to do that. Like, they've got to take a page out of the Brewers book. They've got to take a page out of the Rays book. The White Sox, you got to try to go after some international talent that can be major league ready, like a Murakami, or who's the one for the Blue Jays. You have to go after guys that can you got to take chances sometimes too. But going after guys that, like Nick Kroll famously said after going after Will Myers, is we want to be that bridge team for you to go somewhere else. And you can't have that. It stinks, but like I said with Elly, he's unbelievable. And I think, I'm not sure what the record is for this, but he is just 24 home runs away from 100 career home runs, and he would have obviously more stolen bases by then. So he could be one of the first players ever to have 100 home runs, 200 stolen bases. That could happen. I doubt it happens this year, but he could go on a hot streak and hit a ton of home runs. But let's just say May of next year, he has the home run, 100 home runs, and that goes along with the stolen base totals too. Could happen, and I don't know. I'm not sure who would have that kind of record, but if he's setting all these extra base records and stuff, I would say he's probably pretty close to being one of the few that has that number 2.
Yeah, and this is kind of alongside this stat of Elly being great. Sal Stewart right here, for at least Reds, is one of the 5-6 Reds that have had 20 homers and 20 doubles in a season as a rookie. And it's Frank Robinson had 38 homers, 27 doubles. Joey Votto had 24 homers, 32 doubles in his rookie year. Spencer Steer, 23, 37. Jonathan India, Jim Greengrass, and Sal Stewart. And only Frank Robinson was younger at age 20 for his rookie year to Sal Stew's 22. So we're talking about 2 big cornerstones that these, I don't know who's going to be the front office, preferably not Kroll and Meador, but they have to really focus on these 2 guys to be the 2 guys that are going to be the cornerstones of this team, whatever it looks like in 2027. I'm in the hashtag to the studs movement a bit because I like Spencer Steer, I like TJ Friedel, I like Noelvi Marte. But I don't know if they're going to win us 90 games. I felt like that was going to be this year. I felt like this was the team. It's one of the best rosters we've had in 4 to 5 years in terms of just on paper. But then what are they going to do? They're going to win 75 games this year. And that's disappointing to me.
Yeah. And looking at Frank Robinson's numbers, you said 38 home runs and 27 doubles. Like Stewart could potentially hit 40 home runs. I mean, and that would put him as the best rookie season in Reds history. And that would be incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to be, mentioned in the same breath as Frank Robinson and Joey Votto as far as what they've done.
Yeah.
Because, Frank Robinson's one of the greatest Reds of all time. Joey Votto is one of the greatest Reds of all time. And for Stewart to be doing this now, obviously it's got to translate for the rest of his career to be in those conversations long term. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's wild. But yeah, Elly, man, I can't say enough. It's awesome. He's probably our most winningest player of this award that we give out. So, yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah, it's good to have a winner of this award for the Frost Buddy Red Hot Red of the Week. Have some like legitimate stats because we were kind of, drawing some straws in the last couple of weeks because it's been pretty hard to pick some guys that have been standing out. Obviously, just having a 3-game sample helps. As opposed to 6 to 7 games of play this week. But that brings us up to our next topic. This next week starts off no rest for the Wicked. We play Monday straight away against Seattle for I believe a 3-game set, and then our rest days on Thursday before playing against the hated St. Louis Cardinals, the frauds I like to call them, the St. Louis frauds. But What do you think about this week? Like Seattle has had kind of a weird up and down season. I don't know exactly where they're in standings. I know, Big Dumper Cal Rally's had a really like couple steps back from his season, and I think that's really affected the Mariners for the most part. But they're going to be traveling across the country playing in Seattle, which could be a good thing to get away from Great American Small Park and play. They played well in Coors, so who knows? Maybe they'll play well at, is it Safeco? What is it over there? Safeco Park?
I think it's Safeco, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So like what do you think the Reds are going to be able to do against the Mariners and then ultimately at Seattle?
Yeah, it's gonna be a good series, hopefully. Trying to see who the probables are. For us, it is Abbott versus it's Abbott tomorrow versus Kirby, and then Tuesday's Burns. So Burns gets a full week and some change off and be his first start post extension, and making the All-Star team, which he didn't get a play in, but he still made the team. It's something. He was there, so he faces Luis Castillo, who hasn't had the greatest of seasons this year, 3-8, 4.93 ERA. And then for Wednesday's game, it is Brady Singer versus Hancock for the Mariners, who is 6-4 with a 3.17 ERA. So it's going to be hard to get runs. I think if we get runs, it's going to be the way we've done it all year. That's sneaking out home runs, but it's hard to hit home runs in Seattle just because you got that Pacific Coast air coming from there, and it's always raining in Seattle. So, it'd be hopefully with Abbott, he can keep it on the ground, not give up home runs. Try to, we got to rely on Elly to get on base, which he's done. We got to rely on Style to drive him in, which he's done. It's just the other, 7 guys that's got to really step up and give us a chance to win. But it's going to be, Seattle's not the greatest of teams this year either. They're at 500. So it's winnable, but Seattle historically is a good team.
Yeah.
Have a lot of talent on that team. Julio Rodriguez is one of the better players in the league. Cal Raleigh obviously is struggling, like you said, and their team's not the team that it was last year. But post All-Star break, things can change for guys. Cal Raleigh can get hot. Rodriguez can get hot. Castillo could turn it on at the deadline, and he could be a name that gets moved. So we gotta try to score some runs. We're not going to win this. We're not going to win this series winning games 2-1 or 1-0. It's going to be either like a 5-4 game or a 6-3 game or something. It's going to have to take some runs to win these games.
For sure. At the very least, I think we win one game, the Chase Burns game. Like I feel fairly confident about that. And then we got Green in the Cardinals series as well. So at the very minimum, Ricky, 2-4, because I feel like those two guys. But Abbott pitches twice, so that could be the wild card. He could win one of those games and lose one of those games, and we're coming out of the week 500. It's always tough to win in St. Louis, so I'm guessing possibly Abbott loses that game. So I'm thinking we possibly could win the Mariners series as they're not playing their best baseball. And since St. Louis is St. Louis and they'll do some Cardinal voodoo magic, they'll probably win that series. And we just get the one win from Hunter Green. That's my guess. Best guess.
Yeah, I mean, St. Louis is on a little bit of a downward trend here lately, just going off their recent, last 10 games. They're 4-6. They've lost 2 in a row. Maybe they sneak a win out in their next series, and then they go back and we can kind of pounce on them. And then maybe, we can see Pittsburgh and St. Louis kind of flip-flop in the division. And then, just kind of give you some confidence. Like we gotta win divisional games, something we haven't done. And why not jump on a team while they're down like St. Louis and try to get going? St. Louis is the only team in the division that's not on a winning streak. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely would be nice to win divisional games. We did that a little bit at the end of the season, right? We won one game against the Cubs, which is great. Yay. But like for the rest of the division, what were we, like 6-22 or something like that?
Geez. Don't even remind me.
It has been possibly, if we're not going to point at the bullpen, we're not going to point at the underwhelming offense in runners in scoring position and whatnot and timely hitting. Losing a majority of your games against the division has to be the one defining narrative of this 2026 Reds team, and that has to change. That like I'd rather be under 500 overall against other teams and be good against the division, to see the Cardinals beat us so much, to see the Pirates beat us so much, to see the Cubs beat us so much. The Brewers, I'm kind of numb to it at this point, but all those other teams beating us at such an alarming rate, it chips away at your soul as a baseball fan a little bit.
Yeah.
But 3-3 is my, I think, positive outlook at this. Hopefully winning one of the series and not getting swept the second one is the goal.
Yeah. I mean, if you could take, 2 out of 3 in Seattle and take 1 out of 3 in St. Louis, I think it's a win. I'd love to see, 2 out of 3 and 2 out of 3. I think, obviously you always want to sweep, but it's just not in the cards, I don't think. But if it does, we'll gladly be wrong. And so if you can string together some 500 weeks, if we're tanking, go 0-6. But it's just.
Well, that's my fear. If we win a third straight series, we beat the Mariners and we beat the Cardinals, and for a third straight series, then now Brad Meador is like, you know what? We're closed. We're not going to trade anybody. We're good here. We're going to just ride this out, everybody, and see where we end up in September. And that's not what we want. I don't think we're the 25th best farm system in America out of 30 teams, according to Baseball America. I think we're closer to the 15th, 16th, 17th, maybe. But we definitely could use some bolster. We could use, especially these expiring contracts that we have, we could use some guys that in the farm system to kind of help us out. Obviously, the draft class will help us out with that. As we talked to one of the draftees from the 2026 draft class, who is super confident about his abilities and really ready to go to help this Reds organization. So check that interview out later this week. I think that's an effective tease there, Ricky. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Early round draft pick. Early round
Day one draft pick. Day one draft pick.
There we go.
Yeah.
I was just going to add this before we get out of here. I did write about the upcoming road trip and how, that could confirm that the Reds should sell at the deadline. I think regardless of what happens, I think they should still sell. But, we play Colorado, which we won the series. We play Seattle. We play St. Louis. And then we return home to play Cleveland. And then after Cleveland, we take on Pittsburgh. And then the Sunday game after Pittsburgh, that Monday is the trade deadline. So it's an off day. It should be easy. But, we'll see what happens. And, I don't know. It's just, I think anybody that can be moved should be moved. And it sucks because Lodolo was looking okay up until the blisters again. I don't think he gets moved, which sucks for the long term because you're looking at, next year is his last year of team control. And that's significantly less value than what you would get with another full year of team control on him. So, yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. But I mean, he could be a pretty big trade candidate this time next year.
Or in the offseason. He could pitch well to finish off the season. He can move him in December. And a team could have a full season of him. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting next couple of weeks. And if anything happens, any breaking news, any trades, any more extensions, maybe.
Probably not, but we'll see.
We'll see. But if that happens, we will cover it here on Red Hot Reds. And until next time, go Reds.
Go Reds.